So I don't have heat in my house right now, which is why I'm sitting in this gorgeous outfit. Do you guys ever sit with your work and think like this is just fully trash and I hate everything I'm doing right now? I do that. I do that all the time. I think self-criticism is something that we all deal with as artists, and we need to talk about it more. We need to be talking about our whole entire emotional process more, which is why I started this channel. So yeah, self-criticism, it hits so incredibly hard for artists, I think, because we're already kind of, it's not that we're criticized by the outside world, but I think that there's a tendency for people to wield criticism at artists more flippantly than toward other careers, I think. So this won't, I don't know that this is going to be the therapy session that you need it to be, but I definitely can relate. So I can't even actually believe how hard I am on myself. I just really do have a tendency to just like take my legs out from underneath me before I really even feel the confidence behind like the beauty that I just created. And I don't know if there's people out there who can really relate to that, but it is like this double-edged sword because it's like we care, and that's why we're so hard on ourselves, you know, because we care so much about this thing and we have to care about it because other people don't care about it yet. And the audience is so fickle, so they're only going to care about it when someone else cares about it. So you have to care about it first in order to get someone else to care about it, and then other people care about it. Then there's this like, I forget what it's called. It's actually, I think that there's like a scientific term to it, but it's this effect. It's not the bystander effect, but it's like, it's I should have looked it up before I started rolling, but it's essentially like the idea that we are so fickle and swayed easily by our opinions because we don't actually know how to feel or what we truly want, but we're willing to take on like the identities and the opinions of other people around us as fact. So with that in mind, as an artist, since you know that, just go ahead and make your art. Don't worry about what everybody else is thinking, and don't have any regrets about what you're creating because it doesn't even matter what other people are thinking. Be the audience, like be the audience and make the art that you want to see. I saw Rick Rubin say that, and I really, really relate to that. And I also think that there's like this paralysis that can happen when you're too critical of yourself, like when you're overcritical of yourself. I've got a lot of unfinished projects that sometimes cross my mind, and I'm like, there's been times where I've gone back to try to like redo it or figure out what it could be. And I think that there's definitely something to be said for that. It doesn't matter. But what I'm trying to say is that give yourself patience, give yourself time, and also sit with kind of that inner critic and just ask it questions, right? I think that there's this big call right now to kind of rest and go internal and kind of sift through. When you sit with that inner critic and you kind of ask it these questions, you start to see and understand that inner voice, that inner critic, the one that is really hard on you, I think it's a voice of protection. I think it was here once before to keep us safe, to keep us kind of navigating through life and just keep us alive, right? It's like our ego to some extent. But we also can get muddled and confused over time and like not really necessarily understand where we pick up these ideas about our own self-perception and like how we interact with the world. I don't think people would generally know it just by meeting me, but I have extreme deep insecurities, and I've actually seen myself subconsciously like choose situations and friendships and circumstances and jobs and that actually allow me to position myself in a way that I can be criticized. Does that make sense? That I can be made to feel less than, that I can be manipulated or kind of antagonized or, and that's, I believe, my subconscious mind choosing situations and circumstances that will prophesize my own belief about myself. And it's only with enough time in life lived and enough art created and a little bit of success here and there that I've started to see that like that voice, while it was useful once before in my life, it's not going to be going anywhere. So I think the question for myself is like, how can I upgrade? I want to update my relationship with my inner critic, and then I want to reassign its job in my life moving forward. in a way that feels more aligned in with who I am and who I've always been, but who I am now, and my current goals and dreams. And it's like, it's not trying to silence your ego. It's not trying to stuff it down or like feel bad that it's there. It's about how we relate to our inner critic. And when we can relate to our inner critic differently, we actually start to demystify these beliefs around how the world is actually perceiving us, and maybe we can start to actually take down these veneers and see that it was all an illusion in the first place, that your beliefs color your experience, and then how you navigate life and conversations and even your relationship with yourself. I have big history with not understanding how to fully relate to this voice and seeing it as fact and truth. And actually what it has done to me over time is deteriorated my self-confidence and my self-worth so much that I have actually chosen to, self-destruct, just indulging in things that I know will ultimately fulfill this negative belief system that I hold about myself. And if anyone can relate to that, I just want you to see and understand that these things are not true, but that they're real for me too. They're real for all of us, to some extent. And I really, really do struggle. I shut people out. I shut the world out. And I don't want to be doing that anymore. I don't want any of us to be doing that anymore. It kind of breaks my heart when I think about that. When I think about my inner child seeing some of the things that I've done to myself out of fear, out of, just self-loathing and self-criticism. I want to hold my inner child and like get him to see and understand that like he is so perfect and worthy, but that there is still something about me in my current phase of life that like I don't fully believe that. I must not fully believe that, because otherwise I wouldn't want to partake in these lower negative vibrational behaviors and thoughts. I mean, it's literally, it starts with my thoughts. It's like we engage with our thoughts. And when we engage with our thoughts too much, we become a prisoner to them. And especially when we have the tendency to indulge in things that kind of numb us to our own emotional experience and our own life, and we just something that is a part of life, and that there's nothing that we can do about it. It's just like what we do as humans. Artists, I mean, listen, I'm not telling you what artists do. I'm telling you how I really do feel and see it from my personal experience, and then maybe there's something that you relate to. But again, this is a whole open conversation and discussion and dialogue. There was a huge part of me growing up that thought that like, smoking weed and doing a bunch of psychedelics was like actually getting me closer to my creative genius. Finally was able to loosen the grips around it and then see that it's like, oh, I actually have the same exact access to creative genius, and actually more so because I'm now a clear channel for the divine to come through into the world, and me bring in my manifestations into the world, and hopefully that will result in more healing, right? Even if it's just for one or two people that see it. That's how we kind of stay in flow. That's how we are of service to the universe. I mean, it's an energetic exchange, and there's no it's a disservice for your service to be so hard on yourself about the process. There is that like illusion of like needing to be good enough, right? And artists who kind of wait for perfection are going to be waiting forever, and then they never really actually release anything, and then that builds up inside and creates frustration and resentment and loneliness. I talked about this in my last video. Go check it out. We kind of masquerade that outlook as like our own standards because we're perfectionists. We need it to be good, and I think that high standards are really good. I have very high standards for myself. Not in my YouTube videos and how I color them, clearly, because I can't figure out this fucking software. Thank you, iPhone. Thank you, Adobe. But when we get stuck in the loop of self-criticism, we completely shut off our own flow, and then we never actually release the artwork into the world. Or maybe we do, but it doesn't have the same exact intention or effect because we were hating ourselves the whole time while we were making it. I really do believe that art has consciousness, and the consciousness that you put into it while you're creating it will resonate in ways that the audience might not fully be aware of, but it definitely matters. And one example of this is like when we're doing self-tapes. I'm an actor. When we do self-tapes and stuff, it's really important to get every single detail in about the relationship, about who you're speaking to, because the more specific that you yourself can be, the more that the casting director or the director or the producer, whoever's on the other side, writer, will resonate with what you're saying, right? They'll understand that you are there in the story because you did the work. They can see that you know who you're talking to. So they believe you as the role, the character. 10:10 on my clock right now. So maybe we should treat ourselves more like we're the star of the show. We're our best friend, You'd never really talk to a friend like that, would you? Would you be like, oh my God, your art sucks. Like, you suck at everything you do. Do you know that? You'd never tell your best friend that. But why do we feel like it's so okay to be telling ourselves that, right? But I think that maybe it's about the overwhelm of thinking that we have to overproduce, right? But then there's that's also an unrealistic way to approach our artwork. It's important to give ourselves like tangible goals. Yeah, I think that the thing that stops us from creating art is just literally the whole huge idea inside of our mind that it's going to be hard. And it's only going to be hard if you make it hard. And so I don't know. I don't think self-criticism is going to be going anywhere, but I definitely think that we can change how we hear it, how we interpret it, how we interact with it, how we relate to it. And we can actually let it guide us too. We can let that self-criticism kind of be our like mentor in a way too, like just to kind of check ourselves here and there. Not saying to get rid of it entirely, because again, like I said earlier in this video, like it keeps you safe to some degree. Like your ego, it's like a protection. It's a protection layer. So be kind to your work. Be kind to yourself. Be kind to me. Be kind to your mom. Also, make sure you call your mom. I'm gonna get off the phone and call my mom. Love you guys.